All right, guys, let's talk about convertible preferred stock and its effect on dilutive earnings per share. Let's jump into it here. You got Barclay Company. Prior to 2020, they issued 40,000 shares of some preferred stock. Every share could be converted into 5 shares of common stock. Okay. For this year, 2020, their net income was $1.2 million, and they had 600,000 common shares outstanding, and there weren't any changes in the number of common or preferred shares during the year. All right, diluted earnings per share. Let's go. Let's do this. Okay, so basic, I got my net income, 1.2 mil, minus my preferred dividend, 240. Now, where does that come from? You can see the calculation in yellow here. We got 40,000 shares at $100 par value. And the par value is important for preferred stock because it'll say like 100,000 or $100 par value preferred stock at 6%. What that means is, as a preferred shareholder, you're entitled to $6 dividend for every $100 par value share that you hold. Okay, that's what that means. So essentially, yeah, they're on the hook for 240 there for the preferred dividend. We have 600,000 shares outstanding. So basic EPS is $1.60. Let's jump into diluted EPS. So again, I like the big bar there, big fraction, and always start on top on the left-hand side with your basic earnings per share. Then let's account for the dilution. The first thing is, if you issued this preferred stock in a previous year, so we're going to assume they convert it on the first day of the year. So if they convert, do you have to pay them preferred dividends? No, absolutely not. So we're going to add the 240 back. So the top becomes essentially 1.2 million minus 0, essentially. It just becomes, you're not going to have to pay that. Now, from the denominator, how many extra shares are you going to have? Well, the problem says each share is convertible into 5 common shares. Okay. So you got 40,000. Each of them going to become converted into 5 new common shares. So 40,000 times 5, 200,000 extra shares. All right. So diluted earnings per share, it's going to be $1.50. Let's switch it up a little bit on the next slide here. Pretty much the same problem, except each share is now convertible into 3 shares of common stock. Okay, so these 40,000 shares are not going to be 200,000. They're going to be 120,000. All right, numerator is the same, but the denominator is just going to be 120. 120. Let's see what happens here as we compute this. Diluted earnings per share is $1.67. That's actually more than basic earnings per share. And what do we say about that situation? Not allowed. Not allowed. So anti-dilutive. These securities, these preferred stock here, are now anti-dilutive. So for our reporting, we're not going to report a higher diluted earnings per share than a basic. That's a GAAP rule. GAAP is rather conservative like that. So essentially, the company would say the diluted is the same as the basic, or they wouldn't report diluted. Okay, next topic, we have options and warrants. These are, we talked about this, any kind of right to buy the stock, very common in executive compensation. They have the option to buy stock. It's, it's very dilutive, of course. If they exercise it, the company then has to issue more shares. How are we going to account for it? Well, a little bit the same and a little bit different than we've done previously. The part that's the same is, of course, we're going to be assuming that these options are exercised at the beginning of the year. So first possible opportunity, January 1st, or the date of issue if later. So if they're issued in the middle of the year, these options, we're going to assume they're exercised right away, as soon as they're allowed to exercise them. That's the same as convertible bonds or convertible preferred. The other thing to assume, which is new, we're going to assume the company uses the proceeds from the exercise to buy treasury stock and therefore mitigate the dilution a bit. So let's see how that works. We got Curry Incorporated. I do see a typo on the slide. Erase that. Should be a 9. I think everything else is good. Curry's net income is $40,000. The only potentially dilutive securities are 1,000 stock options issued in a previous year, 2019. Each option can be exercised for 1 share at $8. None have been exercised, and there's 10,000 shares outstanding during the year. The average market price of the stock during the year is $20. That is relevant, because if people exercise their options, we're going to have to, potentially buy our own stock back with the money they gave us, and the price we buy it back at, we're going to assume it would be the average price during the year. So part A says compute diluted earnings per share, and part B mixes it up a bit, assuming that these options were issued, say, on October 1st during the year. So for part A, here's what we're going to do. If they exercise their options, they still have to pay some money. It's a great deal, I admit, the stocks are trading at an average of $20 a share, but they still have to pay $8. So the company does get $8,000. Now with that $8,000, how many shares can they buy? Are they doing treasury shares? Well, if each treasury share is $20, that's the average price during the year, the company can then buy 400 shares. And they can use these shares to give out to the people that exercise the options. And this helps offset the dilutive effect. Now, of course, the other 600, that's going to be an increase in your shares outstanding. You're going to have to issue 600 new shares. Okay? But that's the idea. So when we do diluted earnings per share, let's just do the basic real quick. Net income is 40. And there are, let's see, 10,000 shares. Yeah. There's no effect on the numerator, but for the denominator, we're not going to say plus 1,000. We're just going to say plus 600. Okay. And the reason that is from the previous slide there. As you can see, with the money we got, we're able to buy some treasury shares. We're able to buy shares from other shareholders and use those to give to the people that exercise the options. So the other 600 is all we have to come up with. So diluted EPS is $3.77. Okay. Let's mix it up. Let's assume that these options were issued on October 1st, 2020. That's the only thing different in the example. So in that case, let's see here. You can see it kind of starts off the same. This is all the same. We have to come up with 600 shares. The only difference here where it gets different is right here. We're going to weight these 600 extra shares. We're going to weight that by 3/12 of a year. October, November, December. Okay. So it's only going to be 150. So when we go to the next slide here, it's no longer plus 600, it's now plus 150, which is 600 times 3/12. So if the options were issued in the middle of the year, your diluted EPS is $3.94. And I think that's all I want to say. Don't have much to say here. Yep, that's it.